Ballad. Ballad is type of a poem, but it is popularly known as a song which is transmitted from one generation to the other, which is transmitted orally by word of mouth, and it is basically a song. It is lyrical in nature, and it is sung by group of singers or an individual singer. It has been created originally by one single person, but through word of mouth, it get spread to many places, and it is adopted by different people, and there is a slight variation in adoption, and people make slight variations when it passes from one person to the other, or when it passes from one culture to the other, or when it passes from one region to the other. So variations are there, and they are adopted, and they are made unique as per the culture which has adopted it. So when one talks of ballad, one has these terms folk ballad or traditional ballads in their mind, because in every civilization or in every society there are people or there are stories which are sung, and these stories get spread from one place to the other, and they are these stories are sometimes talking of people, sometimes they are talking of lovers, sometimes they are talking of kings, rulers, and sometimes they are talking of local deities. So these stories, since they have an origin into their own cultures, they get spread very soon, and the local masses or the culture at the local level helps in spreading it. So basically, ballad is a song, and it is sung with variations from one place to the other, and it gets spread because most of the time it does not have any text or a written form, and there is only a verbal form or an oral form, that oral passing of an oral tradition is there. So there are bound to be variations in the song itself. But when we talk of ballads in English literature, we have to know that their basic adoption is from the concept of folk ballad or traditional ballad. But since they are written in a formal way in literature, they do adopt some particular forms or some particular structures. They are narrative, as most of the ballads are, and they are written by learned poets who give this form a very who treat this form in a masterly manner, as we have read Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner by Coleridge. So this is most famous ballad, and then we have Keats' La Belle Dame Sans Mercy. So these ballads are very famous, and especially the Romantic poets had adopted this style of writing because it suited their idea of poetry. They wanted to make poems for general public. They wanted to adopt dictions for general public. So somewhere it suited their style of poetry. So it has been adopted by romantic writers at length. And then if we further talk of ballads, we would come to know that ballad follow a particular stanza because it has to rhyme. It has it since it is sung, It is a song. Basically, it is a narration which is done through a song. It has to rhyme. So there are couplets which rhyme, or there are four line stanzas which rhyme, and these rhymes are alternate rhyme schemes which are adopted, and it is sometimes accompanied by dance also. So there are people singing as well as dancing at the same point of time. So ballad has a rhythm, it has a beat of its own. Then ballads have repetitions of line, just as a song has repetitions, or just any song which is accompanied by a dance, it has a repetition. Ballads do have repetition in them. The lines are repeated now and then, and they create a rhythm, and they create an atmosphere of music, and one feels like singing it, one feels like getting up or dancing along with it. So that folk ballad, or any form of folk song or folk tradition is there, involvement of masses is there. So you would see that ballads are very they prompt you to action, or they are very actively written lines. You one feels attuned to those lines when one is reading those lines, and the spirit of action, or the spirit of involvement of masses is involved in all the ballads. Then there are other popular forms of ballad which are called broadside ballads or sentimental ballads. They have been adopted not only in England, they have been adopted in America, they have been adopted in Australia. So there are various variations in ballad, but the spirit is same. It is a narration. It is a song. It's speaking about someone, and when it is speaking about someone, at many times the person who is singing it, or originally the person who had sung it, it is more or less objectively sung, but its influence is very subjective, because when it passes from one generation to the other, the heroes it is sung for, or the incident it is sung for, those incidents are or become part of one's culture or one's social development, and that is why people get attached to these ballads, and they are adopted immediately by people, because they have in them a cultural background, they have in them a very indigenous background. That is why they are very popular among people, and this form has been adopted by poets as well. Thank you.